You're listening to The Rich Life Revolution with me, Michelle Cooper. My mission is to empower you to step into your next level of wealthy. You'll hear all the deets, a little bit of inspiration, and real life takeaways so that you can create your own rich life revolution. Let's dig in. Welcome back to the Rich Life Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Michelle, and this is where we ditch the outdated rules, embrace radical abundance, and design a life that feels as good as it looks. Today's episode is pure fire because we're talking about something that affects every woman, our relationship with food, our bodies, and the crazy diet culture we've been conditioned to follow. And guess what? You don't have to sacrifice joy to be healthy. My guest today is Leslie Urbas, a registered dietitian, personal trainer, and total badass when it comes to rewiring your brain around food and health. She's spilling the tea on how to break free from restrictive diets, listen to your body's actual needs, and finally have it all without guilt, shame, or crazy rules. So if you're tired of the diet starts Monday cycle and ready to step into true food freedom, buckle up, sister. This episode is about to shift your mindset in a big way. Let's dive in. Hey, Leslie, so good to have you on the Rich Life Revolution.
Thanks for having me.
I am super excited. Just knowing your story and, your history and stuff. This topic is close to my heart and I'm so interested. And I think that it's a really great conversation for our listeners. So thanks for taking that time out of your schedule. I know everybody's super busy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you might hear some little voices or things in the background, but I'm here.
That's good. No, that's life, right? That's the reality of what we do. I'm particularly interested, and I'll just kind of like give a little bit of a teaser on this about digestion codes and somatic work and how that kind of leads into nutrition and health and all that. So I can't wait to have this conversation.
Agreed. Yeah. It's one of my favorite topics, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. So Leslie, you've spent over 15 years helping women navigate health, nutrition, and fitness. But I know that your biggest transformation wasn't just physical, it was mental and emotional, I assume, right? Can you share what led you to a place where you realized that you needed to actually rewire your brain and what that journey looked like for you?
Yeah. So I know I became an unconscious competent earlier than when I realized I needed to wire my brain. I think around probably 31 before I got pregnant with my first child, I processed that something needed to change because I didn't want to raise children in the world that I was in mentally, right? And so I really started to make some changes then with my body and with the way that I had felt. But truthfully, I can say that I claimed it for my own and understood what I was doing. In the beginning, probably around now in 2021, when I was on a call with David Nagel at the time, he was doing something called what was the name of that thing that he was doing? I don't remember. It's called the open door method. And in this, on day 3, he said something that will forever change my life. And that was that I was living my parents' life. And it was true. And I was doing that mentally, emotionally, physically, all of the things. And so, yeah, that's really when it hit me the most.
Yeah, I think that is something that many of us will come to realize, right? Like that we have some beliefs and they might even be unconscious, right? And they're based on our parents' beliefs or how we were raised and our lived experience, right? And when you open your eyes to that and go, hang on, is this my life I'm living? Or am I just kind of carrying forward what I've been conditioned to expect out of life? Right. I think that's a really key moment.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it was at that moment I had had two children, right? I had had my son, who was like a little less than a year actually. And my daughter, who was a little over 2 years, was soon to be 3, and he was soon to be 1. And I just kind of thought, like, this is a pinnacle moment. Like, I don't want them to think the things and feel the things I feel emotionally around my body, around life, around work, around becoming an entrepreneur. The massive amount of guilt I had, the perfection I had in my body was overwhelming, right? I don't know how many other mothers experience that, but it was like, I think when I turned 24 and I moved out of my parents' house, I could tell the difference with me shifting into a new place. And I think from 24 to the moment I got married around 30, did I notice that it was more me, because I would come home to just me. I was not a roommate person. Never had a roommate. The only roommate that ever got to live with me was my sister, because I was used to that, right? Like, I can live with my sister. I had to live with her for the majority of my life. I had 0 other roommates ever. Like, people were like, you could get a roommate. And I was like, I'm not getting a roommate. It was something about it. I knew I needed that I could come back to Zen, right? Well, when you have little people, you don't come back to Zen unless you make it a purpose, right? And so it was really helpful for me to just step into that and see that so much was always for that. And the only reason why I could come back to being basic and normal when I was alone was because I had that much alone time. And you really have to start to deal with that when you don't get as much of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, I had 3 children. They're all around 18 months to 2 years apart. And there wasn't any alone time. Right? Like, it was like there was always someone who needed something when they were growing up. They're all adults now, and they still need things all the time, right? But I think it sounds like to me that you actually came to some great self-awareness quite early in your journey within like motherhood and stuff, right? I think often from my experience and people I've talked to and interviewed on the podcast is that often that work isn't being done by the women in that stage of life. And because there's so many other things that you're trying to juggle and do and be, right? And so I think when your kids are that young, often the time for reflection and self-awareness just isn't there, right?
Yeah, it was definitely completely hard, which is, when I first started it. But I have, since I was 15 years old and got, all the things told to me about how my body was wrong, I started working out early in the morning. Like, I would wake up at 5 a.m. with my mom before I went to school, high school, and we would work out in our front room. And I think because of that, it's just, I'm 39 now. So for like the majority of my life, I have woken up early. So it's just so easy. I don't really think twice about it. That's really how I thrived. So minus the first 3 to 4 weeks of my kids being young and not getting enough sleep, I pretty much still woke up early, even when they were waking me up multiple times, to have that period of adaptation, because I realized I needed it.
That's good. That's so good. And like, if most of our listeners are a little bit out of that stage, but if any are listening, that's just a great tip, right? That like, there's things you can get done at different times of the day, right?
Yeah.
That can prioritize you. I always say to friends who have like new children and they kind of start on that journey, you can't forget about yourself. I did. I put everybody else ahead of myself and my health suffered immensely. So I'm so glad to hear that that it's worked for you and that you had this awareness. Talked a little bit about, being a younger person and having an awareness that there was this like ill-fitting view or something about your body or, and, working out. I too had similar experience, right? And I think so many women, especially in midlife, feel trapped, right? Like they feel trapped in that endless cycle of dieting, restriction, frustration, and then like, oh, I can't do this anymore, right? And then start all over again, right? What do you think is the biggest mindset shift that women need to make to truly break free from this cycle and embrace that lasting health and confidence that we know is possible because you and I are both living it?
Yeah, I would truthfully say that they need to know that it didn't start as theirs, that they just accepted it, right? So that's a key, that is a big thing that I think is there, right?
Oh, yeah.
I remember growing up and the stories about, grandma gaining weight, or I'm going to be honest that I remember both of my grandmas, both of my grandmas have been privileged to live very long lives. My dad's mom died about 2 years ago in her upper 80s, and my mom's mom is still alive in her 90s. And so I've had them all of my life, right? And I remember distinctly phases where they gained weight. And they let us know, we knew, and the siblings knew, and it was a frustration. And the comments were, oh, I've got the tummy, or I've got the weight. And like, little you doesn't know these things, right? We're just taking it in. Mom's unhappy with her body. Mom's working out. Mom's doing, buns of steel in the family room. Gotta love buns of steel. Still love little Tony Little, man. He's like, right? When I've got a girl, I follow a girl with a nice calves. I'll follow her anywhere. Like I can still remember the things he says in his videos. Oh my gosh, we had those growing up. Buns of steel, abs of steel, Tony Little, all the things. Anyways, brings me back to the younger days. But
totally.
Right. And so this was the thing. But the thing back then wasn't to be healthy. It wasn't to be toned. It was to be a certain shape and size. And the shape and size was skinny, right? Mm-hmm. Skinny, short, petite, that. It wasn't be healthy. It wasn't have muscle. And so that was what was drowned into our parents and our grandparents, that was given to us. And just being in the room with that became something that became part of it. So I think what people don't see is that we're still going for the doll in the box. Okay. We still are. That's what the diet is. It's a doll in the box. Okay. You want to become the doll in the box. So I'm going to give you your doll in the box. I'm going to give you the to-do list, as I'm pointing to my book here. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, doll in the box. That's what every diet is. It's give me the doll in the box. Now we do it in different ways too. We have all these labs and all these tests and all these new things that we can do, but we're saying we're coming from being a healthy perspective, but so much is still, I want to be the doll in the box. The underlying thing we're not addressing is that all of us in our own minds are still dying to be skinny. And we have to break the generational bonds of desiring to be skinny and claim our health, right? Women aren't taught at a young age that we're a beautiful soul and we get a beautiful body and we get this wonderful thing called the period that allows us to have a baby if we choose. We're told you get this terrible thing that's a period that you have to worry about every 28 days. God forbid you wear white shorts. Hopefully you don't bleed through. Hopefully the first time you have it, you're not at school. Hopefully you're not traumatized from it, right? Like there is this. Exactly. It's like this, like from the moment you become a girl, it's like a negative thing. I don't do that, right? Like, because I'm aware of this, like I have 2 young children. We talk about all the time. They're so confused why these boxes are bought and one's a boy and one's a girl. I'm like, this is normal. This is how babies are had. This is why they come about. Like this is, kind of thing, but that's not the norm. We're taught along the way how much our body is terrible for us. So to achieve it, it's really breaking that generational bond. It's really taking that and cutting that off from us. and bearing that, just like you do mentally, physically, emotionally with the rest.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. Um, I'm very tall, right? I'm 5'10" and a half. I've always been somebody who carried a lot of muscle. And I put muscle on easily, which is a good thing, right? But it has always meant that I've been bigger, right? Like even when I was my lowest weight, and like I look back and I'm like, oh my God, your bones are sticking out of you, right? I was still muscular. And that always felt really weird, right? Like I'd look at the other girls in high school and go like, why can't I have like this tiny little arms like them? I've got like these muscles in my arms, right? Or like my legs. I've really strong legs, and like for sure it serves me, but growing up, it felt like I was always too big, right? And when I started working out, I actually ended up working at a juice bar at a gym, and so got a free gym membership. And I was 17, right? So started working out and put on muscle really easily, right? And then I remember this lady at the gym. I don't know, she was probably in her 20s. I felt she was so glamorous. She always had like the workout clothes on. She looked so great. And she said, you should do aerobics because then you would like shrink in your size, right? And so then I became obsessed with aerobics and step class and like all the things, right?
Wow.
Right? And I'm like flying around the aerobics studio and would do 2 or 3 classes in one day, right? And it was all to shrink. Right. And I remember very distinctly, my brother said to me, my brother, very wise person and, 15 years older than me. Right. And he went to that gym. He's the one who got me the job at the juice bar. And he said, Michelle, there's nothing wrong in being a strong, healthy woman. Stop trying to be smaller. Right. Like you are a good size. Like, don't worry about being bigger and more muscular than other women. That's okay. Everybody has different bodies, right? But it was like you said, it was the doll in the box, right? Like I wanted the little arms. I wanted the little tiny legs. I wanted the small bum kind of thing, right? I had larger legs. I had not a big bum, but like substantial. I could do squats,
Yeah.
right? And so, yeah, I think it is. It's there's a big piece there around our inherited belief system, right? Like it's
Completely.
not
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah. And I totally resonate with you. I was an excessive exerciser before that became a term, right? So
Yeah.
I suffered from an eating disorder when I went to college because I wanted to play the part of being a college. Like I'm going to be a dietitian. I have to be a little smaller. I wasn't obese, but I wasn't normal healthy weight of where I thought I needed to be the right dietitian. So before I even took my first nutrition class, when I entered in high school or college, I decided, well, now is probably the best time for me to try to this. And I was first time away, I was tedious and like I was perfectionist. And I ate about 250, max 350 calories a day, worked out twice a day, lost the weight in a very unhealthy way. But when I got caught, my cousin figured it out, told my mom. And when my mom confronted me, I denied because I was not going to get help for this. This was not something I was going to claim that I had. And so I became an excessive exerciser. And excessive exercise has 4 different qualities. But excessive exercise disorder did not come about until about 3 years after I had it. And so because I'm in the field, because I knew what it was, I would never claim to anybody that I had it. But if you were to look at the 4 prerequisites, totally. I mean, when I was, still trying to do everything I possibly could, I taught 2 spin classes a day and worked out 2 hours outside of that. So on days I would work 8 hours, I would work out 4 hours plus drive time and then sleep. And that's all I did, but I lived alone. And it wasn't like anybody really could do that. But in the majority of my 20s, still dying to be the doll in the box and be one of those girls that got all the attention, that was there. And that's truthfully, as I got into my upper 20s and before I met my husband, when I stopped accepting that I had to be the doll in the box and decided to just create my own version of myself, that's when it happened. But that was an unconscious competent. I didn't know that that's what I did at that moment when I began to accept myself. I accepted myself healthy. I accepted myself into my healthy body. I say it that way because so many people are like, oh, I accept myself at any shape. I'm not saying if you're really overweight that you have to stay there. I am saying you're allowed to love your body in the way that it is and accept it and love it healthy, whatever healthy is for you. And no, that doesn't mean a 5'2", 110-pound girl, it means whatever that means for you. And that's so pinnacle. So I completely understand.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I think that I didn't know there was actually an excessive exercising kind of disorder. I for sure fell into that category and had my own struggles. I always say to people, I am one of those people who has a hard time being like kind of like just middle of the road. Like in all of my years, if I'm in the past, not now, if I was exercising, I was exercising a lot. If I was, dieting or, like anything around food, it was highly restricted, right? If I was drinking, I was drinking a lot. If I was doing drugs, I was doing drugs a lot. Like if I was behaving riskily, it was a lot, right? And there was like, it just felt very extreme in those early years. And then, kind of entering those years, my first daughter was born when I was 31, and entering those years of like having children and bringing children up, it was like the complete opposite. Like everybody else's well-being came before mine. And I had to come back to and learn, have that self-awareness, learn about myself and what my tendencies were. And then figure out, okay, where does that come from? Like you said, it's not mine, right? Somewhere along the way, I inherited this and I can put it down too, right? And I can love my body the way it is. It might not be exactly how I want it to be, but it's got me to this place, right? So, I love that. I know that you have, a thing that you do called digestion codes. And you talk about using digestion codes and somatic work to help women achieve food freedom and sustainable health, which I want to hear all about. Can you break down what these concepts are and how they help reprogram the body and the mind for lasting transformation?
Yeah, of course. So I use something called the MIND method, M being mindset, but truthfully, the mindset we've talked about. It's the breaking the things that we've just accepted as normal. And I say family because that's how it resonates in my head, but it could have literally been in grade school. Maybe your family was perfectly healthy and it was never talked about, but then all of a sudden in school, you were realizing it. Or the first time you started to look at magazines, or when Britney Spears was ridiculed because she was a little bit bigger than Christina Aguilera, which was like, she's completely healthy, but yet like that was a huge thing back then.
Totally,
like
right?
People would like call her out for her like weight shifts and stuff like that. Poor Britney. Anyways, that's why she went crazy for a little while, in my opinion. Britney, still love you. You're good to go.
Totally.
Like, it's okay.
Totally.
It's like, I would feel the same if I were you. It's like, okay, I took a weekend off. I enjoyed myself and I gained 5 pounds. Get over it. It's like, right? I'm also up here wearing no clothes while I'm performing. Right. But anyways, right. It's okay. It's okay. I digress. But so that's a piece. Like, where do we get that? It doesn't have to be a parent. It doesn't have to be a sibling. It doesn't have to be that. Like, amazing for your brother. Like, oh my gosh, would that have been amazing? I grew up with 2 older sisters and we all basically had the same image. My sister, Lisa, my late sister, she had a different body image than Lori and I did, but she also was the skinniest of us when she was her healthiest self. When she was her unhealthiest self, her weight would shift, but she could get herself really skinny. My sister was just, she could swing shift. She was one of those people that like, one day you see her, she's like 25 pounds down. The next day you see her, she's like 25 pounds up. She's like, don't worry, it'll come off next week. I never understood it, but she did really do it. And she was a healthy eater. So it was so strange. But anyways, that is a piece of it, right? That shift of what is all the things we're growing up. How did we see people? When did we start hearing them say that? That's pinnacle piece number one, right? Now that mindset piece comes with not only discovering what those beliefs are, but handling them in the body. Sometimes we don't actually have to know. It could have been, we were eating a donut as a kid and, the popular girl came up and I was like, ew, I would never catch myself eating a donut. Do you know how many calories in that? Something that simple that potentially gets trapped in your body where you wanted to retort back, but you knew better. And so you held it within. That experience trapped in the body is where somatic work can come into play. And you might not remember that. It's not like you remember every encounter in high school, but you might look at a donut differently now for the rest of your life. And maybe you have 2 kids that absolutely love donuts and you've eaten them throughout life. And every time you've eaten them, you feel this terrible feeling in your body. And it's like, if I eat this, I know I'll gain weight. Yes, because you've attached that meaning to the donut, right? Mm-hmm. And so we talk about that really in the M, and that all food is food, right? You will never hear me say, don't eat sugar, don't eat this. Yes, I understand there are healthier foods than not, but the goal is that every food has nutrition. It's just some have way low nutritional value and others have high nutritional value. Even candy has nutrition. It has sugar. To a runner, eating that sugar is pinnacle, especially when running long distance. They need that sugar. That is immediate use for their body. That's why we created all these gels and things. Before that, what did people use? Candy, because it's the same thing, right? So there's a purpose for it when it's needed, when it's used, right? So that's piece 1 with the mindset. Piece number 2 of the mind method is internal. And that is, what does your internal body need? So here's where I use things like human design and astrology, because if I were to ask you, what is your body telling you? Most women have no idea. We're like, sleep. Like that's a majority of us, right? Sleep. My body tells me I need sleep because we're so pressured because our to-do list is a mile long. And that's just the normal to-do list. Then I have the, all the random things that I'm the only one at a house that know. And then there's all the health goals I have to-do list, right? It's not one to-do list. It's like 15 to-do lists that get to done in a day. And it's stressful, right? So when you ask a woman what they want, they typically say they want sleep. But that's not what the body wants. So where do we start? I typically use these things, your human design, your astrological chart, other things can tell us. Does your weight shift throughout the year? Some people actually do rhythmically shift throughout the year. A few pounds here, a few pounds there. It is actually very normal. And when they see it, they freak out and then they do a diet and then it actually brings the weight up. And then we have a new set point because we didn't handle that. And that's why women can say, I've been steadily gaining 5 pounds a year every year. Can be due to their astrological chart. It can be due to their human design. It can be due to them completely knowing, like my son, since he, graced us with his little voice. We had a little bit of a struggle with him eating. And I noticed there were certain days he would eat more. And I processed through uncovering his human design, he needs a freezing cold object at every meal to eat it. Even when it's freezing cold outside, if he is eating something cold, he will eat more of the meal. It cannot be super hot. If it is super hot, he is done with it. Okay. It has to be at a temperature appropriate for his mouth. And he prefers something freezing cold. He will eat, like if you gave him a bowl of frozen blueberries, he would not stop eating it. He would eat the whole bowl. He would have no problem because it's cold in his nature. Right. So we use these tools to help your body trust itself again. We also put in.
Interesting.
Right. We also put in a rule that I give to all of my clients. This is something I would do if I were you right now. I would do this step. And that is for the next week, every time you need to eat, you eat. Every time you need to drink water, you drink water. Every time you need to go to the bathroom, you go. There is no one more email. There is no one more thing. You just get up and you go. If you could do that for 1 week, you will literally turn back on your vagus nerve and your nervous system to a point it can actually start communicating to you. But us taking away those basic pieces of just going to the bathroom, eating, drinking, we've shut down our internal system. So we don't hear our body being over here like, I'm begging you to eat this random meat. Even though you're like, why would I want to eat that meat? Like, we don't know. That's why when people are like, what do you want to eat? Sometimes you're like, I don't know, because we don't even know what the body's asking. we know the body craves things. This is why humans can even get the desire to eat like dirt and clay, because our body is significantly missing something inside. But most of us don't have that turned on because we're so turned off of what our internal system is saying. So that's the internal piece. And as for nutrition, of course, but not the nutrition like most people would think. It's not like a written prescription, follow this, don't eat that. It's more of based on M and I, how do we form your nutrition? Some people need to eat at the same time every single day. Some people need to eat the same thing. Some people need to rhythmically change based on seasons. Some people need to eat a lot of calories on Monday, but come Friday, they need less. It's so interesting how each body is different. So whenever somebody says I'm following a diet, what I hear is that some days you're perfectly nourished, other days you're overly nourished, and some days you're undernourished, because our body actually does different things. Just like you were saying with the exercise. While you were lifting weights, your body needed one diet. When we went to aerobics, your body needed something different. But we're not taught that, right? We're taught we're at the gym, this equals an hour, this does this. And that's where the E comes in to it's exclusively tailored to you. Because when have we ever won the one size fits all t-shirt at one of the games?
Oh my
go to
God.
Baseball games, whatever, and they fit.
I hate those things.
They don't fit, right? We're super excited. It's like, cool, I won this t-shirt. And it's like, and I will never wear it because it makes me look terrible, right? Like, might as well insert the moo-moo, or like if it doesn't fit you, then you feel terrible because it's like one size fits all. That's why they changed those t-shirts to write one size fits most now. Right. But it's like, oh my God, it's just terrible. Like, it doesn't make anybody feel good. And then if it does fit you, you feel even worse because you're like, oh my God, I'm the size of the one size fits all t-shirt. You know?
Right.
It's like, it's actually not helpful to getting these t-shirts, but that is what the doll in the box is. It's here is the one size fits all diet. And we just shift, right? It's the same thing, whether it was back in the 80s when we were talking about low carb, we started using more trans fats, we went through Atkins, and now we're in keto, and now we're in carnivore, and now we're in eating right for your period. And they're all just a different doll in a box. Insert whatever and the accessories that come with her or whatever you're eating. It's not catered to you. It just feels different now.
Yeah, that's so good. I love that. And you bring in such great points there that I think are so useful, right? Like in my core business, which is an accounting firm, I lean on human design, right? Because everybody has a relationship with money that is both learned and inherent, right? And so we can learn what our relationship is so that we can create strategies for self-sabotage, let's say, and kind of lean into our strengths, right? And I think it's so interesting to think about, our digestion, because I know that's, in my I've never even looked, like, I know it's there, my digest, like, I know it's a part of my chart and my thing, but I've actually never totally looked at it, right? Yeah. And it's so makes sense.
Pull it up and look at the word. I'll gladly share.
Yeah, totally. I want to do that.
There's so many more pieces too within it. Just your type tells you. There's different channels that'll tell you certain things. We actually have a channel that promotes us more to be a sugar addict than others, right? We also have different channels that'll tell us when we need to eat more frequently, if we need more protein, if we need more plant-based protein versus more animal-based protein. And literally when I tell everybody there's like, that makes so much sense. I've known this my whole life. Like, nobody ever feels different. It's like, this is how I want it to be. Insert as well. Let's assume that you're a highly sensitive person on top of this. So when I find out that I actually have highly sensitive clients too, it's another quiz I give them now. That poaches a new thing with food, because you have your human design and your astrology. And if I'm considered a highly sensitive person, which is not a terrible thing, if you've not read it, you can go look up the book and there's a quiz that goes with it. That changes your food. It changes your food because it's now even just a texture and a mouthfeel. Just do the type of person you are. And it's piecing those things together. Your doctor never says to you, hey, are you doing breathing exercises? How's your stress level? Do we even know if the vagus nerve is online? This is part of these pieces, right? Somatic work. If your vagus nerve isn't on live, you legitimately just don't digest food right? Because your vagus nerve helps us to digest, okay? But then if the vagus nerve isn't on right, we're still not digesting outside life right. So digestion is so big. That's why I went with digestion codes, because it's everything. It's how you digest what you're seeing, hearing, feeling, consuming about food, all of those pieces. And it's more, to me, we put health into this, people call it like bro marketing, right? Business was all bro. Like, to me, dieting is like the used car salesman. Which diet you want? You want to grab carnivore? Do you want to grab this? Like, totally. I'm over here flashy, showy. But this digestion codes is more like, yes, there's going to be some masculine to it. It's going to be like, you can eat that, totally fine, but you will feel this way. Okay, that's your choice. You will always have the choice. But then there's this femininity to it of, oh, so this diet that wants me to be this way, I don't actually have to do that? I get to be free? Like, you mean I don't actually have to eat at the same time every day? You mean breakfast might not actually be the most important meal for the day? Yeah, I do. You could actually be eating breakfast and it could actually be out of alignment with your body. Just that simple.
That was me. I gotta say, that was me.
Yeah.
When I stopped having like a solid thing at breakfast, like I would try to do all the things, overnight oats and like all these things, right? And like, I just need a protein shake. Like that's my perfect breakfast, is a protein shake. And I take some prebiotics, right? And I'm good. I'd love to eat around 2:00. That's when I'm hungry. And I want to have something to eat. And it took me a while to learn this about myself, right? I like to eat, and like, pretty solid between 2 and 6-ish, maybe 7. That's my kind of window. And it's not like intermittent fasting for me. That's when I'm hungry. Right. And so I've started to do that, and my body feels better. Right. I do have a question for you, because just as you were talking, this came up, and it wasn't one of my kind of planned questions, but just my own selfish, because I got you here, I might as well ask you.
For it. Of course.
Like thinking about digestion codes and, like everything, right? Have you ever found a client who might be kind of struggling with the ethical thing around eating meat, but craving meat? Because that's where I am. If I'm super honest, and I live in a farming community. I see the trucks taking the cows and the chickens, and it, like, I burst into tears. I'm like, oh my God, right? Like, it makes me feel ethically, I'm like, I have to find a different solution, and my body wants the meat. And so I've tried to make other choices, right? Like the free range cows that are walking in the field, and, a rancher slaughters his own, or, whatever it is, right? It's not the factory farmed. But do you have any insight on that, or like how you can manage a situation like that?
Yeah, first I would see in the human design if you were actually somebody so there's actually a way that you could actually need less protein, or actually not need animal-based protein. You could need more plant-based protein, which is what I was hoping. So it's so funny you say this. So in June of 2023, I could no longer look at meat without seeing how it went from animal to meat. Okay.
That's where I am.
Totally the same place, right? So I went from this to this. And in June of 2023, I stopped eating meat until August of 2024. And I did a little bit of work with a Chinese medicine person who just kind of had the discussion with me about different pieces. So it was helpful to hear that like the things that I could see that were going in my body, like I was depleting muscle mass, I was feeling more joint pain, more aches. And like there was the discussion of like, in Chinese medicine, the chi is truthful, and to create blood and muscle and cartilage, it's easier to do it from blood and muscle and cartilage. And just some own inner healing work. Yes, going plant-based. I live in Spain at the current moment. So like I see all the local people and like just the difference in prices. And I know that my meat is different. I know that because there's not an ingredients panel, right? It's just like meat. I know there's not hormones and some of the things that we do in the States that they just can't do here. Right. And so that has been helpful. But obviously I lived in Spain while I wasn't eating meat and I could still see it. It was to me the ethical piece of that. Right. And so that's where I had to really go to. One of the pieces that I went to is that we even know the plant feels pain. Right. So I read this book a little bit after it. It's called The Mutant Message Down Under. If you haven't read it, it's a fabulous book. It's called The Mutant Message Down Under by Marlo Morgan. A friend sent it to me around the time that I had just started eating meat and looking into this. And she talked about in the book how she went on, it's a fictional book written by a woman who says that she did this, but she calls it fictional because she was actually taken by the Australian Aborigines. And she went on them for like a 3 or 4 month journey, I forget. And she talked about her whole journey through this and about how every single day when they would set out walking aimlessly through the desert, basically trusting the land, right? And not aimlessly, they knew where they were going, right? She would see every single day some sort of animal would come to sacrifice itself for the people. And it was like a known sacrifice. And then towards the end of the book, she talked about how they handled death and that the death of the person's role was always started to be passed on to a younger person to pass on their role. And when they were ready to die, they would all say their like goodbyes, but in a grateful way. And that person would literally go off by themselves and basically just physically, spiritually leave their body, and their physical body would be left behind because they viewed it as the sacrifice back to those sacrificing for them. And me just really liking the book and really being open to it, I was like, that makes sense. I like that. That feels good to me to know that in a way that this animal could be there because I'm using the grass-fed, the free range. Like if I were living in the States, I'd still be going to that. If I could find somebody that had local eggs, I might even go out of my way to get local eggs. Now they probably deliver. It's probably like a good charge for some delivery fee or something. But that's really how I got through that one myself personally. But it depends per person. You know, for you, I would read that book. I think the book is absolutely fabulous. I mean, you have to, when I first started reading this, I was like, I don't know about this. But she talks about that this book was written for certain people and she knows that certain people will see what she saw. And that was one of the reasons why I think I read it, because it really opens me up to being able to be like, all right, I see that meat can be there to help me to be physically and mentally and spiritually who I need to be. And knowing that I need the muscle to carry me longer to get my message out to more people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. My strategy right now is, like you said, it's the choice of, like I try to do my research, right? And how animals are treated and raised and slaughtered. And to be honest, I'm leaning towards like the halal meat because of the way the animals are killed. Right. And, so yeah, I'm trying to navigate it. It just came into my mind and I was like, I wonder if you've got any insight on that. So thank you so much. Definitely going to pick up that book and we'll even put a link to it in the show notes. So
yeah, for sure. It's a good one.
Yeah. When women try to change their approach to food or fitness or mindset, I see this all the time. And even in my resistance kicks in, right? It might be emotional eating. It might be self-sabotaging behavior, or, it can be falling back into old patterns. How can women recognize and work through that resistance in a way that supports their healing?
Yeah. I mean, I go back to the book Cybernetics of like, you just have to know that when you've had X type thinking about food, nutrition, your whole life, and you have X type thoughts and you try to put in a Y type idea, there's going to be anxiety. There's going to be roughage, right? So in thinking about food, okay, all food is emotional. Everybody's like, that's not true. Yes, it is. Every food is emotional. Okay. When you tell a kid we're going to a birthday party, they're like, woohoo, cake, ice cream. Can't wait. I can't wait for the cake. Right. You know, like food is emotional. When you say somebody, we're going to Chinese food, that person either goes, woohoo, or like that. No, I don't want to go to Chinese food. When you say sushi, you get even more of that. Some people are like, woohoo. And other people are like, I'm running away. Like, no, thank you. Right.
Yeah, totally.
So there's the give and the take, right? It's like emotion with the food. So when you go, I'm going to go on a diet, you already have an emotional response, especially if in the past you have failure after failure after failure after failure after failure. So one of the things I recognize with people is that you just need to know that when you decide to take the first step to making yourself healthier, there will be resistance. That's normal. So pat yourself on the back and be like, okay, I'm changing myself because I have resistance. If it were easy, if there weren't resistance, that would mean I'm back in the norm. It's easy for me to open up a bag of M&Ms and just binge on my feelings, right? It's harder for me to look at the bag of M&Ms and be like, I love you, M&Ms, but today I'm going to deal with this and I'm going to go take a walk. And if I seriously can't get the M&Ms out of my head after the walk, I'm going to have 10 of you and I'm going to thoroughly enjoy you. There's two pieces I used to give to people. First one is that when you think that this is the food that you want or the food that you just can't say no to, what I want you to do, go out and buy it. I want you to sit down at the table alone, you and the food. And I want you to take a bite or put a piece in your mouth and then rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. And I want you to do it until you can say that eating the food is less than a 7. Because believe it or not, most of the time within the first 5 bites, the food no longer tastes as good. And we could literally leave it at 5 M&Ms because we're rating less than a 7. So that's key number 1. Try it. See with the food that you absolutely love that feel you could eat forever. See how many times it takes you before it drops off. It will drop off. Just depends on how much. And then the other thing is that you can eat any food you want on any type of diet when you have the right tools to do so. The deal is that you have to go and you have to look at the M&Ms like, I've had a stressed out day today and I want to eat this bag of M&Ms. So I'm considering eating the bag of M&Ms, but right now, knowing that I'm emotional, do I want to choose the M&Ms or do I want to say, I'm going to put the M&Ms down until I can come back to the M&Ms less emotional? And it's choosing one or the other. And both of those will kind of help you when you go to that. But in knowing, the resistance is pinnacle to your change.
I love that. It's like resistance is inevitable if you're changing, right? If you're static and you're staying where you're at in your comfort zone or whatever, there isn't going to be resistance, right? So, I'm a firm believer in being in a growth mindset and always being open to growth, opportunities, possibilities, and expansion. And so that's a great kind of like reminder and reframe around resistance for me personally. So thank you so much. A lot of people think that they want it all, but they can't have it all, right? So your approach emphasizes that women don't have to sacrifice their happiness, their social life, or their enjoyment to be healthy, which I adore, right? If someone's listening right now and they feel like they're constantly choosing between what they love and what they think they should be doing, what's the first step they can take to create a life where they can truly have it all?
I would say visualization, like everything else, right? That's the biggest key. That's one of the keys I teach in the very beginning. And a lot of my clients partway through go, do I still have to do this? I was like, depends. Do you still want it? Right? Because our brains it is so easy for us to go back to the hamster wheel. It is much easier. We're familiar with it. We know it. We love it. It feels like that warm blanket. In The Myth of Normal by Gabor Mate, he actually discusses the addiction of people, and names that sugar is the biggest addiction to everyone, everywhere, on every continent and every area. And he said that anybody in a modernized society cannot claim that they're not addicted. We're all addicted to something in some way, whether we want to claim to or not. It could be the healthiest thing in the world. It could be the unhealthiest thing in the world, but it is just what we are. And he explains that with this, it's so much easier to go back to the hamster wheel, because most addicts say it felt like a warm blanket. Right. And to be honest, the way we're eating and the way we're living, the way we're dieting, it feels normal. It feels warm. It feels cozy. Here I am again, back on the diet train. Oh, but then spring break comes, because January and February are easy to follow. But then spring break comes, and it's like, well, now I'm going to eat off of it. And then it's a lot easier to not. And we're rhythmic. We like rhythm. We like consistency. So we drive for it. So if you want to be different, you have to change that pattern. You have to go into that piece of visualizing that you can. And it has to start there. Because truthfully, if you don't believe by any means that you can possibly have that picture, if you don't think you're worth it, then yeah, it's going to be a tough struggle to have it all. Because you have to know and believe that you are worthy, and you can't have it all, truthfully. And it could be like consciously know, believe, help me to wire it subconsciously. That's cool. That is totally okay. That's an acceptable answer to begin your journey in any way, shape, or form. But if you consciously refute it, if you're like, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve that, then you're right. You're not in the right place to do that. And that comes to acceptance of knowing you are. If not, you wouldn't be here.
So good. God, you're like a genius. Thanks. I adore this conversation and you and all of this. And I think that your approach is it's so freaking refreshing, right? It's just so great. So thank you so much for spending so much time with me today and really dropping such amazing gold nuggets in here. I really, really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.
Yeah. So we'll put all of your contact details in the show notes. But where do you like to hang out online if people want to stalk you?
That's great. Facebook is where my number one jam is. Facebook was created when I was a college student, so it feels like home to me.
Right? Totally.
There you go. See,
warm, fuzzy blanket.
Yeah, exactly. But I do also have a YouTube channel that I hang out with, and I typically post a video there every day, 1 minute typically in length, so you can get other tidbits of information there to apply as well. So.
Fantastic. Awesome. Thanks so much, Leslie. Appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you.
Wow. What a powerful conversation. I just love that. I'm sure you would agree that Leslie just dropped so much wisdom about how our bodies, beliefs, and past conditioning impact the way we approach food and our health. If there's one big takeaway from today, for me, it's this. Your body knows what it needs. It's time to start listening. Mic drop. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend who needs to hear this. And don't forget to connect with Leslie. She's got even more gold nuggets on Facebook and YouTube, so go give her a follow. And all the links are in the show notes, so be sure to check them out. And as always, keep living your rich life on your terms. Until next time, stay bold, stay fierce, and stay you.
Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you got at least one gold nugget today. Be sure to grab your copy of the Rich Life Revolution workbook to help you set the foundation for your next level of wealthy. Get it now at richliferevolution.ca, and I'll see you later.